Good evening, everyone, and thanks again for joining us for Sunday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm meteorologist Dave Percy. I'll be hosting today's show. On the hazardous weather graphic, we've got a snow advisory out, or winter weather advisory for snow here for the Susitna Valley back up toward the Alaska Range that's currently in effect and will stay out until 6 p.m. Monday afternoon or Monday evening. That's for as much as 6 to 13 inches of snow to fall by tomorrow afternoon or by tomorrow evening here throughout the Susitna Valley, and some areas, localized areas, could see as much as 18 inches of snow. The other yellow shaded area here is the Alaska Range, eastern Alaska Range, and that's for a wind advisory that'll kick in sometime tonight and continue through the day tomorrow for winds of 40 to 50 miles per hour developing through the passes there west of the Toe Cutoff. So moving on to the satellite imagery, you can see first band of moisture here moving northward. That's what brought the precipitation snow in across southern Alaska last night and back to the west. Next system, strong southerly flow here, rapidly spreading clouds northward into the, across much of the southern interior, actually crossing the Alaska Range there in the higher clouds, with the main low center back to the south here, another low center pulling back up to the northwest over the northwest Bering, and then a break occurring here over the western Bering Sea down to about Adak and Atka Central Aleutians, and then the Cirrus Shield with the next pretty active front. They'll be pushing gale force winds into the western Aleutians later on tonight there, the main low center staying back to the west toward Kamchatka Peninsula. Otherwise, a pretty nice day here across the Panhandle, with just some variable clouds moving through. Kind of that weakening front off the coast here brought the chance of rain up to close to the north coast today, and a little bit more in the way of precipitation along the North Gulf Coast on up into Prince William Sound. Otherwise, this next system, not too much rain has fallen yet. Kodiak State Airport's only at about 0.05 of an inch through about 3 p.m. Sunday afternoon, while AKwx picked up about 0.2 of an inch, but back down along the Alaska Peninsula, anywhere from 0.5 inch to a little over an inch fallen on the south side there, with, for example, False Pass picking up about 0.75 of an inch during the day today, and then a little bit less than that up toward Chignik. And back over the Bering Sea, you see breaks here occurring, Pribilof Islands, kind of rain and snow showers going on there, mostly to your west in this batch of clouds right here, and extending down toward the eastern Aleutians, and then back up to the northwest there. This area is snow pulling near, or just about all west of St. Lawrence Island, so catching the Gamble area there, and variable clouds, and again some snow precipitation along that boundary as it shifts up to the north. On the chart today, here's the warm front. You can see south to north flow here with the gradient, the 994 millibar low right about in this position here. Warm front spreading rain up to Kodiak Island, and up along into the southern part of the Kenai Peninsula, with precipitation beginning to increase again here, mostly in the upslope areas of southern Alaska. And right through here we had mostly cloudy skies, areas of light snow or snow showers through this portion, with that main band pulling back to the north there, a little more widespread area of snow along the Brooks Range, western north slope on out to the Arctic coast, and then showers down to the south across the Bering Strait and the Seward Peninsula area, with this low 997 millibars weakening as it pulls off to the northwest. And then we've got higher pressure building in over the Aleutians in this area, and the next front just edging its way onto the chart there. They'll be pushing eastward tonight. Otherwise, along the southeast coast, we have this very weak disturbance right through here, with a chance of showers made it to the north coast during the day today, and then back to the west. High pressure continuing to hold but weakening here over western Canada. And then this system up here, not too much going on in the eastern part of the Brooks Range there. Most of the moisture back to the west with that thing. For tonight, this won't actually die completely. It seems to kind of regenerate a little bit. And so the showers or areas of light rain or precipitation increase as that shifts eastward. Rain or snow possibilities up toward the White Pass area. Looks like rain right along the outer coastline here of the North Gulf Coast, mixing with rain or mixing with snow as you move inland or get any elevation at all. And that next low tracking right up into the southwest interior. So widespread area precipitation associated with that in the form of rain or snow here over the southwest, and then mostly in the form of snow up the west side of the state of Alaska here, all the way up to the southern slopes of the Brooks Range area. And just clouds and maybe a chance of snow in the Tanana Valley, especially over the White Mountains. Could see better chance of some snow shower activity there. But the north slope drying out, a little bit of a break as that trough slowly continues to move northward. So look for cloudy skies, IFR, periods of light snow, fog along the Arctic coast. Otherwise, we've got showers of the former rain from Kodiak Island. Back down, mixing with snow for the Alaska Peninsula. Northwest winds on the increase here. I'll pull some cooler air down. It'll take a while for the snowfall levels to get all the way down to sea level here for the Alaska Peninsula. Probably changing over to snow showers with the Pribilos as colder air moves in. Bulk of the moisture again back up over the Russian Far East or here in the western interior with lesser amounts off to the east. And again, a little bit better chance of some precipitation over mainly the northern southeast coast, even all the way down to the Prince of Wales Island area. Could see a little bit of moisture later on tonight. Otherwise, higher pressure building into the central Aleutians, and that'll bring some brisk northwest winds in here with the gradient between the building ridge here and the low center over the southwest interior. Could see gusts 35 to possibly as high as 50 miles per hour here in the more exposed areas. Otherwise, gale force winds coming in with rain with this front as it pushes in toward the western Aleutians tonight. And then we'll see for tomorrow, that system advances eastward. Good gale force winds with rain all the way over to Atka by afternoon, changing over to showers of the mixed rain or snow variety, but tapering off out behind the front toward Shemya. Otherwise, we have this low tracking up to the northeast here into the interior. So kind of should see any kind of precipitation throughout the day tomorrow. There will be widespread IFR here over the western interior areas with mostly snow falling there as cooler air begins to come in. This low tracks northward and then starts pulling off to the east and northeast. Front pushing eastward, so wet conditions along the North Gulf Coast, spreading into the panhandle with that warm front. Rain or snow, again, trending towards snow behind this trough axis, the cooler air coming in. So it's kind of better chance of seeing snow or rain early on, and then late tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow night changing over to snow, and even the Susitna Valley, probably mostly in the form of snow there where the winter weather advisory is out. And then the outlook for Tuesday, that system pulls off to the east here or weakens into this trough right through here, leaving kind of an area of light snow behind there over the Yukon Flats down in toward the White Mountains. But for the most part, Tanana Valley, maybe a risk of a snow shower early and then mostly cloudy. It should be mostly clear here with that ridge building up to the west into the southwest interior. So I'll give some downsloping off the Alaska Range. So look for a mostly sunny day here. Prince William Sound, North Gulf Coast, Cook Inlet, Kenai Peninsula. Variable clouds and dry for Kodiak Island. Same thing for Bristol Bay. That next system driving northeastward here into the with the main low complex hanging way back there toward the Russian coast, and so the front weakening, especially over the southern areas, becoming quite weak, losing the gales, may even lose the small craft advisory level winds, with a narrowing band of light rain pushing eastward to Nikolsky and possibly even on Alaska. Warmer air, rain to the southwest coast, mixture of conditions here behind the warm front, and then snow out ahead of the cold or the warm front with the chance of blowing snow up there along the northwest coast, Kotzebue Sound in those areas, but dry, and VFR for the Arctic coast. Looking at the lows for tonight, a little bit below zero here over the eastern interior, still down to minus 20 around Northway and Tok, above zero for the Arctic coast, mild, mid to upper 30s, Kodiak Island, lower to mid 30s, Bristol Bay, 30s all the way out to Shemya, and the Panhandle mostly in the 20s to mid 30s. And for highs tomorrow, South Central Alaska, 30s to maybe lower 40s or near 40, especially down towards Seldovia, Cordova, Kodiak, and upper 30s near 40 for the Panhandle, mid 40s out along the outer coast though, and into the teens for the North Slope. For the lows Tuesday morning, falling a little below zero up here in the Arctic coast and the northeast interior areas, down to Tok, teens for the Copper River Basin, and for the 30s to near 40 for the lows for the southeast coast there, and lower 30s for the Aleutians. And then looks like for Tuesday afternoon's highs, single numbers and teens in the northeast. Mildest here down across Kodiak and the Bristol Bay area, as well as the Panhandle.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving into the flying weather section, the first graphic here showing tomorrow morning's widespread IFR from the Alaska Peninsula across Bristol Bay, much of the western and into the west central interior here, to and east of the Alaska Range there to western Cook Inlet, and then up along the southern slopes of the central Alaska Range. North side is a swath of VFR in the lee side of the mountains there in the Tanana Valley, back into the IFR for the Koyukuk Valley, and along the Arctic coast IFR, North Gulf Coast all IFR that'll extend in across the northern Panhandle, but improving on down to the south. You can see becoming VFR there from about roughly Petersburg on over to Hyder and Stewart, and then down to Annette. For the afternoon, that slips on down, so IFR and conditions, sea lanes visibility is lowering over the southern Panhandle, stays IFR up to the north along the North Gulf Coast. Start to improve here at Prince William Sound, and south central Alaska, seeing conditions marginal through the day for the Kenai Peninsula, Cook Inlet going VFR down to Fognac Island. Lots of IFR up here over the central interior. Eastward there across Eagle, back to the northwest across the Kobuk and Selawik Valley areas, out along the Noatak Valley and the northwest coast. All of the North Slope and Arctic coast will be IFR, improving out to the west here with pretty good VFR with ridging into the central to eastern Bering Sea, and then some more IFR, but that's off to the northwest with just marginal stuff over the western Aleutians. And for Tuesday morning, we've got IFR persisting up here, North Slope, roughly right along and south of the Arctic coast, down into the northwest valleys, and then from the southern Seward Peninsula, St. Lawrence Island to St. Matthew Island, and down into the lower Yukon Valley area with marginal VFR into Bristol Bay. VFR, South Central Alaska, manages to sit in the valley up to the Talkeetnas there, and then IFR in the Tanana Valley, Central Tanana Valley eastward, 40-mile country, marginal to IFR conditions expected Tuesday morning. IFR appears to be on the decrease there for the Panhandle, with VFR showing up in the north, back along the North Gulf Coast, all South Central Alaska. It's really along north and west of the Alaska Range. You're into the marginal VFR with diminishing IFR up here over the Central Tanana Valley to the northeast. Improving there for the Arctic coast and North Slope, and lingering IFR St. Lawrence Island to the coastal areas of the Seward Peninsula. Widespread VFR breaking out over the western Bering and Aleutians. And for passes, Anaktuvik tomorrow, occasionally marginal, and marginal VFR expected for Adigan. For the Lake Clark and Merrill, lowest condition, or just IFR here, kind of switching around, so either side, either entrance there could have we'll probably have IFR at some point in the day tomorrow. Same forecast for rainy IFR, trending toward marginal conditions later in the afternoon. Windy though, IFR, and we'll go marginal for Isabel and Montesta, both marginal VFR, Tanita IFR, and for Portage, starting out IFR, and then looks like as depending on when the flow turns westerly, that'll start improving here, especially on the eastern entrance, going marginal VFR, although with that westerly flow, could socket in on the west side late in the day, but generally improving in the afternoon and evening. And for Chilkoot and White, IFR all day long. For the freezing levels here, 2,000 feet up to about Dillingham or so, eastward across central Cook Inlet, call it Kenai, and then down in across, diving southeastward across the Panhandle. Pretty warm air aloft here, coming into the Gulf of Alaska at 8,000 feet there, just east of Kodiak Island, and at the surface there from Cape Newenham, and still just a shade north of St. Matthew Island, 2,000 feet way back down to the southwest. Icing with that front, pretty good front coming in there with a band of definitely light rime icing with it above about 4,000 feet. Could be some areas there just in advance of the front of widespread moderate. Then icing free up to the coast here. Kind of hit and miss here on the west coast, scattered areas of light icing possible, increasing over the central interior areas, pretty widespread here, not for the Brooks Range, Arctic coast, central and east side mainly. Heaviest will be down here over the Panhandle with areas of considerable moderate rime-icing jet stream with that strong flow from the southwest, 130 to 150 knots in across the northern panhandle, ridging coming in back out to the west, 9,000 feet. Westerlies pretty strong across the Gulf into the panhandle, and southwest 45 to 55, Aleutians into the Bering Sea, lighter over the interior. In that same pattern at 3,000 feet here, light winds, kind of a several low complex low pattern here, central northern interior. Good westerly flow on the south side of that, 20 to 30 knots, some cases a little stronger into the panhandle. Southerlies up to 70 knots over the Aleutians. So with that considerable moderate chop here out over the all of the Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula into southwest Alaska and the panhandle.
There's a big investment here. Between the ship and its cargo, we're talking millions of dollars. Ensuring that it all arrives safely at the next port is a heavy responsibility for the captain and crew. Once clear of inshore waters, there's not much between the ship and its destination, except weather. And it's weather that makes ocean shipping a dangerous business.
61.0 west at 12/50.
What's got me is just the speed, how fast it's going. It's going real fast, and they usually don't build up.
No, then you're going to dissipate somewhere along the
Yeah,
line.
see, because it says here even 3 days later, it's still only going to be at 80 knots.
The only thing you can do is
You just keep going the way we're going.
Even with the latest electronic equipment, anticipating changing ocean conditions remains a challenge. Weather is estimated to be responsible for 80% of all losses at sea. So, for the mariner, timely and reliable weather information is crucial.
Despite the technological advances made in marine forecasting, there remain only 3 basic sources of data for the marine forecaster. 1 are buoys, 2 are the satellites, and 3 are the ships at sea. And when the clouds roll in, obscuring the satellite's vision, and you move offshore out of the buoy's range, there remains only the ship reports to provide the cornerstone for the forecasting process.
The only effective way to obtain real-time local marine weather information is by reports from ships at sea. And that's the job of the Voluntary Observing Ship Program.
De winden gehad en als wij dus door Erin heen gaan, worden de winden noordoost.
The providers and users are found aboard ships operating on all the world's oceans.
The VOS program is a surface data acquisition program under guidelines established by the World Meteorological Organization. It's the largest observing program in the world with 1,600 observing platforms maintained by the U.S. on board moving ships, 7,300 ships worldwide operating in the program.
Weather data from ships is collected and analyzed at the National Weather Service's National Center for Environmental Prediction. Forecasters use ship data to develop the high seas forecast. Sometimes it's the only data available.
This guy right here averages about 3 high, so it looks like he's a 28, but he's actually like a 25.
The National Weather Service VOS program generates just under 400,000 ship reports annually. Worldwide, all VOS programs together produce about 1.3 million ship reports annually.
In the United States, the VOS system is coordinated by port meteorological officers.
Hey, Jim, how you doing? Pretty good, how are you? Long time no see. Yeah, it has been a while.
Officers like Jim Saunders recruit and train marine weather observers.
Yeah, we're just talking about the tropical storm Barry coming up here.
They maintain the equipment and are continually seeking ships and volunteers. The VOS program operates at no cost to the vessel. Communications charges, observing instruments, and reporting supplies are furnished by NOAA's National Weather Service.
There's no adjustment needed, so perfect, good shape.
Bound from New York to San Juan, Puerto Rico, the Sealand Consumer is a typical ship participating in the VOS program. Its crew knows the value of an accurate high seas forecast.
Well, I'm the chief mate on this ship, and I've been going to sea for approximate 40 years. You know, you're out here at sea, and you want to know what's going on, because your life and the safety of everybody depends on it, like the cargo, of course, and the whole ship. If you don't know what the weather is doing like this, you might be in a heap of trouble, especially nowadays where everything is bound by time. We are like a railroad, everything is on time, so it's important to know what the weather's like.
Reliable observations are key. Good data from ships means good forecasts in return. So accuracy and attention to detail are critical.
There's two important things when you submit shipboard meteorological data. One is accuracy and the other is timeliness. If you put in bad data, you're going to get a bad forecast out. If you trust somebody else who's put in data immediately prior to yours because you don't want to go out and under the bridge wing and observe the swell or the sea state yourself, then you're trusting in that person. And that isn't the real data that's happening right now. Timeliness is extremely important in submitting your data. If it's late or you've saved it for the next report and putting two reports into the same time, then your synoptic value is totally lost. The idea is to get your report in as close to the synoptic hour as possible.
Weather data is normally transmitted to the National Weather Service 4 times daily, corresponding to most weather prediction model runs.
These reports are submitted in Zulu time or Greenwich time or Universal Time Coordinator, whichever term you want to use, but they're submitted at these synoptic hours every 6 hours all around the world the same time, so that when Klaus Mueller is taking an observation in Germany on board his ship at 0600 Zulu, John Thompson in the Pacific is also taking it at 0600 Zulu, and those times are exactly the same. So no matter where you are in the world, the synoptic time will remain the same, and the data taking time is exactly the same for everyone.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Well, there's been quite a bit of melting has occurred south of Nunivak Island on into Bristol Bay, and those milder east-southeasterly winds are going to continue for the next several days out across the ice pack. So the southern edge of the ice field here, or the eastern edge and the southern edge, especially the southern edge here, will continue to melt over the next several days. Moving on to coastal water forecasts here. For the inside waters, starting with Clarence Strait, southeast 20 tomorrow, 4-foot seas, 5-foot seas with 25-knot winds for Stevens Passage, southeast 30 for Lynn Canal, and then southwest 20-25 here on the south coast to southeast at 25 on the north coast. Tuesday, north 20 knots, gust 35, switching the wind direction there for northern Lynn Canal, south 20 yet for Stevens Passage, southwest 20 for Clarence Strait. Good westerly winds here all along the coast at 30 knots with those seas running 17 to 18 feet, drop it down to 25 on the north coast. And then for the North Gulf Coast, south to southwest, 25 knots with 14-foot seas, southeast 30 knots for Prince William Sound tomorrow, 6-foot seas, and south 20 for northern Cook Inlet, small craft advisory south of the Forelands into Kachemak Bay for 25-knot winds, southwest 30 for the Barren Islands. And then for the Tuesday outlook, we've got light southerly winds here north of the Forelands there for the Cook Inlet area. But southern Cook Inlet, west winds 30 knots. That's good for a small craft advisory. And full gales here for Kachemak Bay. West 40 knots, blow right across the Barren Islands. Diminished to about 30 knots here for the western North Gulf Coast with about 13-foot seas. And then 15-foot seas with 25-knot northwesterlies there for the North Gulf Coast. And still holding on to those 30-knot northwest winds for Prince William Sound. And for the Kodiak Island area, southwest 30 knots tomorrow, seas as high as 19 feet, 20-foot seas here from Sitkinak to Castle Cape with 30-knot winds turn westerly for the Alaska Peninsula, and Bristol Bay also west winds at 30 knots. For Tuesday, south 20 for Bristol Bay, and gales here on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula. Small craft advisories on the south side of those 25-knot winds extending up and turning westerly from Castle Cape to Sitkinak, Kodiak, 25 knot westerlies, 25 to 30 knot westerlies. And for the Aleutians, Fox Islands, westerlies, 25 to 30 tomorrow, turning south west of Nikolsky and picking up the gale force to high-end gales here toward Adak and Atka, and a narrow band ahead of that front of storm force southerlies here, progressing slowly eastward during the day tomorrow and then falling back to about 45 knots there for the far western Aleutians. They'll seas as high as 25 feet. And then for the outlook on Tuesday, we've still got southwest 40 there towards Shimmy and Attu, and then small craft advisories here as you head into the central Aleutians, coming down 25 knots west-southwest there, Adak and Atka, and then gale force winds from the south to southwest here for the Fox Islands with seas 20 to 25 feet. And the southwest coast tomorrow, brisk wind advisories or small craft advisories for westerlies 25 to 30 knots, west 25 for the Pribilofs, minimum gales for St. Matthew Island, and then down to west 20 for St. Lawrence Island. And for Tuesday, southerlies 30 knots here, southwest coast right up into the Bering Strait across St. Lawrence Island, and southwest 30 there for the St. Matthew Island area. 40 knots out of the southwest in the forecast for the Pribilofs with seas building to 24 feet. And for the western coast here, northeast, 10 to 15 knots, turn southeast at 15 here for the Chukchi Sea. Eastern Beaufort Sea, a little brisker, east at 20, but not too bad. And then those hold through Tuesday and extend and then increase here on the western coast about 25 knots with 25 knot brisk wind advisories all the way down to Wales. And looking at tonight again, we've got this system moving northward here, so a good shot of moisture coming in across all of southern Alaska, even spreading into the Panhandle with the remnants of that front that seems to kind of enhance a little bit as it moves across the area. Snow back over the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, Kuskokwim Valley, winter weather advisory for 6 to 13 inches of snow for the Susitna Valley tonight into 6 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. Wind advisory, eastern Alaska range west of the Toth Cutoff, gusts 40 to 50 miles an hour. And the next system out west pushing gale force or storm force winds, actually a narrow band tomorrow in advance of the front. Gales for the central Aleutians and less wind and drier conditions with the ridge. This low tracks northeastward, front moves east, kind of a mixture of precipitation southern Alaska, snow back to the west and northwest and up through the eastern interior with rain pushing into the Panhandle. And then for the next day, that system moves on out, colder air moves in, snowfall levels drop to sea level over the Panhandle, and clear skies and cooler south central Alaska and more snow on the west coast. Thanks for joining us.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.